What's up, everybody? The topic of discussion today is something that has been bothering me for several weeks now. Some people are not going to like this video very much, but when you hear false narratives being pushed over and over and over again, at some point in time you have to produce a counter argument, especially when the people pushing these false narratives are progressives who put you align with politically, who have a very large reach on the left. Okay, so I'm mostly referring to Jimmy Dore, but what I'm going to be critical of in terms of the arguments he makes are similar arguments I've heard and seen elsewhere. So that's why I'm making this video, because I see a trend. And we can't assume that just because folks are progressive, then we can't criticize them or point out where they might be wrong, or at the very least, jumping the gun. Okay, and that applies to me as well. It applies to everybody. Okay, so I know some people don't like, and really, like I said, it's been bothering me for several weeks, because for days I wondered whether or not I should really make this video. Okay, because people prefer that you focus on the right wing and right wingers and conservatives, because those are our true political enemies. Okay, so I get that. I definitely get it. But like I said, if this was a one-off where there were only maybe a couple videos and there weren't all these people on social media who had this perspective, I wouldn't be making this video right now. I'm only making the video because I see it as a trend. Okay, and I see it as a very problematic trend. So as you all know, there have been a string of progressive victories and Democratic primaries in the lead up to the midterm general election in November. Some people like Stacey Abrams and Andrew Gillum are running against some very, very despicable politicians. Okay, Abrams is running against Brian Kemp in Georgia, who is basically a Chris Kobach clone. Okay, he's the master. He has a doctorate degree in voter suppression. Okay, among other things. And then you have Gillum, and Gillum is running in a highly visible, highly advertised gubernatorial race in Florida against Ron DeSantis, who kicked off his general election bid. he launched his general election campaign, essentially, not literally, but essentially, by running on Fox News and calling Gillum, a black man obviously, a monkey. That's how Ron DeSantis got started. Okay, afterwards it was exposed that he was an administrator on this very suspect alt-right, I would say white supremacist Facebook group that he, once it got exposed, it wasn't until after he got exposed, after the primary, by the way, that he left the group. He's been known to go to events frequented by Milo Yiannopoulos and all sorts of other white supremacists and different far-right types. So we know the type of people that Ron DeSantis likes to circle himself around. Okay? Then you have Ben Jealous in Maryland running against Larry Hogan, which I think that's honestly going to be the toughest race of the three gubernatorial races. I think that's going to be the toughest one. I've mentioned, so far, because Hogan is actually a very popular governor. Okay, I saw a poll recently, and actually the poll was from like a month ago, but it had Larry Hogan up by like 19 or 20 points. Ben Jealous, like if Ben Jealous wins, it would probably be the biggest upset of the night. Purely because the polling is just so bad for him. But the polling was bad for Andrew Gillum in the Democratic primary as well, leading up to the election, and you saw that he won by a few points. So the polling, you can only read but so much into polling, okay? Turnout is the most important thing. But then you have Ayanna Pressley as well, who knocked off another progressive in Massachusetts. So, of course, I can't forget to mention Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who opened everyone's eyes to the blue wave when she won in her area. So, people are excited about these victories, which I think is important to maintain at least until the elections themselves. Okay, maintaining this excitement is honestly the most important factor right now, because turnout is extremely important. Okay, so if people aren't excited, then people won't turn out to vote. It's as easy as that. Okay, I mean, like I said, the polling looks favorable for Democrats across the country, but voter suppression is a very real thing. We all know that, so you can't read too much into what the polls say. You just can't. Because we don't live in a country with a very strong democratic process. Okay, we just don't. American democracy is, as it's maintained by a deeply, deeply flawed electoral system. Okay, and that's probably putting it nicely. Okay, so in comes Jimmy Dore, and this is where what Dore is saying and the people he's influencing. This is actually when it becomes a problem, because it's one thing to be constructively critical, okay, especially if you're being critical of something that matters. Okay, it's another thing to engage in unnecessary contrarianism for the sake of being a contrarian, because that's the impression I get with Jimmy Dore. But before I continue, I'll just say this. I don't have anything personally against him, okay, but I sense that he's purely just looking for a contrarian angle to the blue wave. Okay, because as I'm going to show you in videos, he doesn't really sound like he believes in the blue wave. He doesn't really see it. It doesn't really seem like he doesn't seem like he's really buying into it. Like he's so anti-democratic party at this point, which is sort of manifested in his hatred of Hillary Clinton. He's so anti-democratic party that he can't even enjoy some of the successes. Like, to him, there has to be something wrong here. It can't possibly be, as good as it seems to be. And I'm not saying that it is, but I'm not saying that it's not either, because we don't know, because none of these people are actually in office yet. Okay, that's my total position. So what Jimmy does is done under the guise of holding people accountable, holding their feet to the fire, but really I think the issue he has is deeper than that. Okay, so I want to go over a few videos Jimmy has made over the past month. Okay, just to kind of explain to the audience what I'm talking about and some of the things and some of the issues that I have with some of his commentary. Not even all of it, because Jimmy has done videos in the past that I like, that I agreed with. But this string of videos he's put out over the past month, I think needs to be called out, and I think it needs to be challenged. So like again, that's the whole purpose of this video. So in the first video, I'm gonna show you the first video Jimmy made of Andrew Gillum was after his win. Okay, a little over a month ago. He was comparing. So like I said, this was a little over a month ago, and in the very first video, okay, Jimmy was comparing Andrew Gillum to Barack Obama. Okay, and not in a good way. Or not in a good way at all. So listen to this.
Gillum overwhelmed Graham in Miami-Dade and Broward, the state's two largest Democratic counties, by more than 2-to-1 margin in the highest turnout for a midterm primary election in Florida history. I am overwhelmed, he told a cheering crowd of supporters at a victory party at Hotel Duval in downtown Tallahassee. I want you to know that this thing is not about me. This race is about every single one of us. Those of us inside the room, those outside the room, those who voted for me, those who didn't vote at all, and those who didn't vote for me because they are Republicans, but I want to be their governor too. Sounds like Barack Obama, doesn't he?
Yeah, I mean it was a pretty impressive victory, and he's got a long road ahead to try to pull that victory off in the general in Florida.
So now here's my thing with him. In the primary in 2016, he endorsed Hillary.
I did know that about him. Yeah.
So hey, I know that Bernie did not have a ground. He didn't have a ground game in Florida, and this is coming from people inside his campaign. Told me this, that they did a horrible job in Florida. So maybe this guy knew that Bernie wasn't going to win, and so he wanted to endorse a winner in Florida. I don't know. I just think it's so. It just because when I said he sounds like Barack Obama, he does. Mm-hmm. To me, he's saying all the inclusive thing. Barack Obama was the master of inclusivity, and there are no red states, there are no blue states. Remember that? That was his big. That was the thing that got him to national attention, and that sounds a little bit like that. I want to be Republicans' governor too,
right?
But then we all know what Barack Obama went on to do. So that's why it makes me a little nervous. He's got endorsed by Bernie Sanders. He ran on Medicare for all.
Yes.
So, but Barack Obama was for Medicare for all too before he was president. He didn't run on it. I don't think he ran on it, but he did before he ran. We've seen the video of him saying it.
So basically, he's saying that he has the oratory skill, but he's black, so I don't know if I can really trust him. I mean, the people might think that's unfair. Okay, so I don't. I'm trying to be fair to Jimmy because he didn't say that in the video. Okay, but it is very heavily implied. Okay, the Barack Obama comparison only makes sense if you're looking at the race of the two people and the fact that both can give a good speech. Outside of that, I don't really see where Andrew Gillum and Barack Obama have anything in common. Okay, Andrew Gillum supports policies that Barack Obama has never vocalized. Okay, there's just not a lot that you can ideologically say that they have. I mean, outside of the fact that Andrew Gillum does support the ACA. Okay, he does support the Affordable Care Act, but a lot of people support the Affordable Care Act. So I don't think that's a controversial position. That's something else I'm gonna get into in a second, because there was a tweet that Andrew Gillum put out that I really think people blew out of proportion and really read too much into what he was saying. But I doubt he'd compare, and when I say he, I'm talking about Jimmy. I doubt he'd compare Beto O'Rourke, okay, who also has, good oratory skill or even great oratory skill. I doubt he'd compare Beto O'Rourke to Barack Obama. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. I haven't seen every single one of Jimmy's videos. There might be a video out there where he said, hey, that Beto O'Rourke, he gives a good speech like Obama. He must be, I have to keep my eyes on him. He might be like Obama. I haven't seen that video yet, So like I said, there's not much that you can really compare Andrew Gillum and Barack Obama on other than race. And the fact that they give a good speech. So I'm reading between the lines here and I'm looking into sort of what's being said underneath the surface. Okay, that's what I'm getting at. So I point this out to show you specifically, this is important because I want to show you that Jimmy has been skeptical of Andrew Gillum, really honestly for no apparent reason, since Gillum won. So before the tweets that I'm going to go over that people are, getting all upset about, before the tweets, before any of that stuff, he was like, I don't really know about this Andrew Gillum character. I don't really know about this guy. He's comparing him to Barack Obama for no apparent reason. And the agenda is clear because if you compare him to Barack Obama and if you say Gillum is Obama 2.0, then obviously he's not a real progressive. Obviously, then you can start smearing him. You can just start saying he's a neoliberal, not based on policy, but because he looks like and he sounds like Barack Obama. So this is before he started finding things to be critical of. He was already kind of laying the groundwork to say that Andrew Gillum isn't a quote real progressive. Jimmy also said something strange in that same video. Before I move on to the next one, check this out. I want y'all to hear this.
So they send this out. Progressives are winning everywhere, and they point to all the progressives, and they are. There's Karen Eastman in Nebraska. There's Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Dana Balter, Jesse King, Liz Watson, Andy Kim, Randy Bryce in Ohio, Veronica Escobar,
Wisconsin.
I'm sorry. Did I say Ohio? I meant Wisconsin. Yeah. That's the Iron Stash. So they lit all these progressives. So how many is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Wow, it's like 14. Which is not bad. But again, I will go back to the one key. This is key, I think. How many corporate Democrats have we knocked off? How many corporate Democrats have we primaried successfully so far? One. Joe Crowley. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Just one. So I'm not, again, I don't want to be negative, right? Because I'm for progressives, and I'll vote for a progressive if they're in the Democratic Party or the Republican Party or the Green Party. If you're a progressive and you don't take corporate money, I'll do my best to vote for you.
Okay, so I have no clue who he's talking about because there are no progressives in the Republican Party. Progressives in the Republican Party? What is he talking about? The fact that Jimmy thinks that there might be, that should be concerning. The fact that he thinks there might be progressives in the Republican Party, first and foremost, I would question, how are you defining a progressive? Because the fact that Jimmy positions himself as a progressive implies that he's okay. It implies that it's okay to vote for a Republican as long as they don't take corporate PAC money. Okay, ignoring all of the other terrible policies that Republicans in the far right have. Okay, that's a problem. So that's why I said it's important to ask, what do you actually consider to be a progressive? Because you have to understand that being a progressive is more than just not taking corporate PAC money. It's more than that. It's a lot more than that. So I don't. That's why I said the progressives in the Republican Party. That kind of just, my mind almost broke when he said that a little bit, because that's so counterintuitive. Like that's so contradictory. Progressives and Republican Party are like, it's like trying to mix oil and water. The two don't go together. Okay, so you can't narrow progressivism down purely to just not taking corporate PAC money. That's what I'm trying to say. And that also is problematic, because it means that you have some people on the left who think like Jimmy, okay, who might support a Republican, okay, if that Republican doesn't take corporate PAC money, but what if that Republican supports taking away a woman's right to choose? What if that Republican supports stop and frisk? What if that Republican supports a hardline extremist approach to what's going on at the border? You see what I'm saying? Like it's, I don't know. It just made no sense to me. Like, so that I had to point that out as well, because I was watching the video. I was like, that sounds strange. So it's clear that Jimmy, he doesn't really seem to believe in the blue wave. Okay, it's not to say that you can't be critical. It's not to say that all of these people are going to win. But it seems to me that Jimmy has this personal litmus test of what he considers to be a progressive. And if you don't pass the Jimmy Dore sniff test, then to him, you're not a real progressive. Okay, and when you have as many followers as he has, and your reasoning, your logic is that reductionist. Okay, again, going back to what I said at the beginning of this video, that it forces me, who didn't really want to make this video, it forces me to make this video. Because I'm like, oh crap, like if this catches on, this isn't helping the left. You're not helping the left by attacking the progressives, trying to make sure these white supremacists don't gain more power than they already have. You're not helping. You're being counterproductive. He says Jimmy says we haven't knocked off enough establishment Democrats. Now, I would actually agree with that to an extent. I really wanted to see Cynthia Nixon defeat Andrew Cuomo. Okay, I really wanted to see. I can't think of the lieutenant governor's the name of the lieutenant governor of New York. It slips my it's I can't think of it right now, but you guys know who I'm talking about. The man who was trying to run to be Cynthia Nixon's attorney general, or not attorney general, her lieutenant governor. Okay, he didn't win either. The establishment won in the New York primary. Okay, and honestly, it wasn't even close. Me personally, and I said this online. I said this on Twitter. To a few people, I'm so tired of hearing about how liberal and progressive New York is. I'm so sick of that damn talking point. like you could go down the list of the terrible politicians that have come out of New York. You can go down the list of all of the state abuses of the citizens that goes on in New York. New York is one of the biggest vote suppressors in the country. It has the electoral system, the statewide electoral system in New York is atrocious. I mean, it's the New York's electoral system is worse than some Republican states. Like, that's how bad it is. Like, I mean, it's like, so I don't know. Like, I think New York gets way too much credit because they vote consistently Democrat. For presidents. During the president, it's a solid blue state. But policy wise, I don't see it. Policy wise, I'm not seeing this liberal bastion that people make New York out to be. I really don't. But I digress on that. But yeah, like, so, I agree. I don't think we've knocked off enough establishment Democrats, but understand, knocking off the establishment is only part of the agenda. Okay, it's a big part of it, but it's only part of it. It's also important to get people into power who represent you and who will speak for you. Okay, no matter how you get them in, so they can have a voice and they can have an influence, because right now, the left, the fact that the only people we can really look to is Bernie Sanders, that's a problem. Okay, so the objective, first and foremost, needs to be getting our people into power. That should be the main objective. And taking over the establishment is going to happen over time, but that's not going to happen overnight. Also understand that America has tilted the democratic process, okay, in favor of conservatives through methods like gerrymandering. So the type of massive change that people want is going to take a long time to implement. Okay, do people realize do people realize that America is so far right that if the Overton window shifts one space to the to the right, if the Overton window shifts one more space to the far right, okay, this country's basically going to be a plutocratic dictatorship. Like, I mean, people realize that, right? Like look at what they're doing now. Look at what they're doing now. And it's not a dictatorship. The separation of families at the border and putting them into internment camps. The extra legal execution of citizens in their own homes, in the streets, just gunning people down, okay? And people aren't being held accountable for this. The poisoning of drinking water, the destruction of tribal lands, the attempt to rig the census to give white Americans an artificial amount of representation, okay, the gutting of the social safety net, okay, I can go on and on and on. Not to mention the fact that a potential criminal, is sitting, and I have to say potential, it's not proven. I have to, cover my own ass, but A potential criminal is sitting in the Oval Office, positioning himself to fire the man investigating him. That is how bad it is right now. So trust me, we can't go much further to the right and not hit old school fascism. That's how extremist this country has become. And I don't think people get that. So it could take a decade or more. It could take decades, okay, of consistent effort to reverse the damage that's been done and could continue to be done. If they get Kavanaugh on the court, that is a generational appointment. Okay, it is going to take decades. It's going to be decades before we can shift the court to the left. So we can't look at 2018 as if all the change we need has to come in this one election cycle. So while we might not be looking while we might not be knocking off a lot of corporate Democrats now, if we keep the pressure up and get some victories, we will over time. I truly do believe that. Andrew Gillum might not be as far to the left as some people want, but he damn sure is far away from where the Overton window currently sits. He is way to the left of the Overton window. And in my personal opinion, that is what is most important right now. That is what I care, because me personally, and this is just, and I was gonna mention this in further down in the video, but I don't think Andrew Gillum is strong enough on criminal justice issues. Now, he's good on stand your ground. He's very good on stand your ground, but he doesn't go far enough for me. But I also understand that where my politics are on that particular issue, most Democrats, even Democrats on the left, aren't where they need to be on that issue for me. Okay, but it would be very naive of me to say, you know what, I'm going to attack Andrew Gillum because he's not as far as to the left as I am on criminal justice issues. So I'm going to attack him, and I'm going to insinuate that he's not really a progressive because he doesn't meet my personal standard. That's not how this works. That's not how this works at all. Before I continue, let me say that while I support Andrew Gillum, he was the most progressive of everyone running in the Florida primary, in the Democratic Party Florida primary. So there wasn't anyone to the left of Gillum by all accounts. And he is running against someone who appears to be a white supremacist, and I think that is very important. It doesn't mean that Gillum can't and or won't make mistakes. Okay, we should be critical of all politicians. But I think it's equally important that we make sure our criticisms are based on something more than, say, for instance, tweets. I know that's hard to do in this era where the commander-in-chief is like a child on Twitter. Okay, we have a child for president who makes policy decisions in his tweets. He tweets out things that he's going to do before he even tells people in his cabinet what he's going to do. Okay, so I know when we're living in that dynamic, that political dynamic right now, it's very hard for people to distance themselves from that. But that's not the norm. Okay, and I'm bringing that up because there's one thing in particular that Gillum has done that I do think is problematic, but before I get into that, let's talk about the next video Jimmy made of Gillum, because I talked about the first video after Gillum won, because this one proves my point about not making sweeping accusations based on tweets. Okay, so you remember how skeptical Jimmy was of Gillum right after he won the primary race, like I mentioned earlier, and like I said, for no apparent reason, because he didn't really have much to go on back then. Okay, comparing him in a negative way to Barack Obama, that was completely just something Jimmy pulled out of his ass. Okay, well, a couple weeks later, he found something to hang his hat on in a video he made titled "Andrew Gillum Flip-Flops on Medicare for All." Okay, so long story short, Andrew Gillum did not flip-flop on Medicare for All. Okay, that's an exaggeration. I even mentioned this on Twitter, and some people got upset with me, but I said that Jimmy basically debunked himself in his own video. Okay, everyone got bent out of shape about a tweet. Okay, a tweet Andrew Gillum made that I believe was blown way, way, way out of proportion. So on Twitter, Gillum said, quote, this was the tweet. He said, quote, affordable health care should be a right, not a privilege. That's all he said. He said affordable health care should be a right, not a privilege. Right now, health care is treated as a privilege. He's saying it should be a right. But the thing that people like Jimmy and a couple other people, the thing they really tried to harp on was the fact that he said affordable. Okay, he didn't say Medicare for all. He didn't say he didn't support Medicare for all. He simply said affordable health care should be a right, not a privilege. I think the tweet probably could have been worded better. I wouldn't have tweeted that. I would have, but hey, I'm not running for governor of a state. I'm also not running for governor of a state that hasn't had a Democratic governor in 20 years? Okay, a state that's pretty dang on conservative. Okay, I'm not in that position. Okay, so I can't honestly say what I would or wouldn't tweet if I were in that position. But I can say that I don't think this tweet implies what Jimmy Dore is trying to imply that it implies. Okay? Because what the insinuation is, Andrew Gillum flip-flopped, and because now he's in the general election, he's moving to the center, he's moving to the right. And so now he no longer supports Medicare for all, because on his website, Andrew Gillum mentions the ACA and strengthening the ACA, but he also mentions that he supports Medicare for all. He mentions it on the same damn page. So maybe it's not again, this is the thing where it's like, it's not forceful enough for some people. But from my perspective, he was supportive of the ACA, or not the ACA, he was supportive of Medicare for all before he won the primary. And then after he made this tweet, he reaffirmed his previous support of the same policy he had been supporting before. And Jimmy, this is why I said Jimmy debunked himself in this video, because Jimmy actually posted this tweet in the same damn video. He said, look, Andrew Gillum, after he made this tweet about affordable health care, some time later, I didn't time it. I don't know if it was like a day later, a couple days later. It was after this tweet though. He said that he supports Medicare for all, and Jimmy was like, "Oh yeah, you see, this is because he only said this because we put pressure on him. We held his feet to the fire." No, he said he supported Medicare for all before the tweet, and he said he supports Medicare for all after the tweet. So what it is you misinterpreted his tweet. You read too much into this tweet, and you tried to imply that this tweet meant something that it clearly didn't mean. Now, here's the thing. If Andrew Gillum, in one of the debates that he has with Ron DeSantis, if he's asked about Medicare for all, and he starts sounding like kind of wishy-washy, and he doesn't firmly come out and say he supports Medicare for all, and he starts talking about medical insurance and health insurance and things like that, then people can be justified in raising the red flags and be like, you know what, I don't really know about this, because it's coming from his mouth, because everyone is going to be watching him in the country, or at least definitely in the state. But a lot of people are going to be watching them in the country as well, because a lot of people are paying attention to this race in Florida. So it's a much bigger deal when you're standing across from your opponent, you're in a debate setting, and someone asks you whether or not you support Medicare for all, and you don't firmly come out and say, yes, I support Medicare for all. That would be a problem. If Andrew Gillum did that, I'd be like, okay, the criticism is a little valid. I'm not going to do that from a tweet. I refuse a tweet that says, like I said, I'll read it again, affordable healthcare should be a right, not a privilege. it's a very benign tweet. I'm not going to jump the gun and turn Andrew Gillum into Cory Booker 2.0 because of this one damn tweet. I'm just not doing it. My bar is a little higher than that. And I believe he should get some benefit of the doubt until proven otherwise. People might disagree with that, but that's my opinion. That's my position. Until he's in a setting where you can actually hear his voice instead of just reading something that he's writing. But until that happens, I'm going to assume that he never stopped supporting Medicare for all to begin with. But, people jumped all over this. People blew it out of proportion. And this was the beginning of the turning Andrew Gillum into Cory Booker 2.0. This was the beginning of it. Jimmy also made a huge deal. He made a video about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez attacking her. Okay, for something I'm going to mention in a second. But in that same video that he made about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez attacking her or criticizing her, he made a huge deal about a video that Gillum put on his Twitter page. It looked like it was shot with a camera phone. It was outside. It looked very in the moment and very spontaneous, where Andrew Gillum and Cory Booker, they were trying to encourage people to donate to his campaign, or donate to Gillum's campaign, not Cory Booker. And Cory Booker talked about how he's going around the country supporting Democrats. So obviously everyone's talking about Andrew Gillum. He's the talk of the town. He's all over the media. Why wouldn't Cory Booker go down there to talk to him? And more importantly than that, do you think it would be politically smart for Andrew Gillum to say, no, I'm not getting in a video. I can't be seen with Cory Booker. Like, really, honestly, is that important? That's the thing that I need people to really analyze. Is a camera phone video, not anything official, not something Gillum's campaign put out. The video, they didn't say anything about policy in the video. Gillum didn't say, hey, I agree with Cory Booker on this, that, and the third. None of that was said. They were just laughing it up pretty much. Cory Booker was saying he supports Andrew Gillum, and I didn't really see anything wrong with the video. Okay, but like I said, Jimmy made this huge deal about it. Okay, and I don't see, because I'm looking at the policy, I don't really see where Jimmy's angle with this is. I'm not getting it. That's why I said, like, there has to be something else to this, because I'm not seeing what Jimmy is seeing here. Matter of fact, let me play that video. It's only about a minute long, so I want to play the video because I actually have it. Pulled up right here. So listen to this.
Hey, it's Cory Booker and
Andrew Gillum from the great state of Florida.
And listen, I'm a Jersey boy, but I love Florida, and I want to say this is in the name of love. I'm asking everybody out there to support Andrew. I'm all over the country trying to help with this midterm, but I'm going to tell you right now, when it comes to priorities, Andrew is at the top of my list, because his election will change not just Florida for the better, but will change America. But this is all talk. We got to get some action going, right?
That's right.
What do we need him to do?
We need you to go and visit us at andrewgillum.com. Give a contribution. If you are a Floridian, get registered to vote. We've got to vote like our lives depend on it, because in fact, our lives do depend on who the next governor is of the state of Florida. I'm proud to have this man's support, and with your help, we're going to bring home a win on November 6th.
So there is an urgency here. Please don't even take a moment after you see this video. Please
do it now.
Do it now.
Give it a little effect.
Do it now. And do me a favor. Share the video to a friend to get them to do it, because that is it. The power of the people is greater than the people in power. So please, let's show some people power. Change Florida, change the world. Let's start making America reflect who we truly are. A nation of love, a nation of change, a nation that focuses on the right things, the right leaders.
Let's go, y'all.
All about
Let's bring it home.
Bring it. Take care now. Thank you.
Okay, so like I said, you just heard it yourself. The video had nothing to do with policy, but to people like Jimmy, you can't even be around an establishment Democrat. Like you have to sort of pretend establishment Democrats are like vampires or something. Like you can't even be around them because they might suck your blood dry. So I don't really know, but and you know, you can't smile and laugh in a video with an establishment Democrat, because if you do, your progressive credentials might be questioned. That's how low the standard is, apparently. So I just wonder, is your issue with Gillum purely about policy? This is the question I'm posing to Jimmy Dore. I'm not even saying I don't even know if he's going to watch this damn video, but this would be the question I would pose to him if I could talk to him. Is your question purely about policy? That's what I'm wondering right now. Because there was no policy in that video. There was no policy in the previous video that he made about Andrew Gillum. I'm not seeing anything policy related. Or is there something else going on here? Because I don't care about that video he made with Cory Booker. I really don't. I really don't. And I think people are expecting too much of him if they're expecting him to go around and start giving the finger to establishment Democrats and just start alienating people within the party and become some sort of pariah, okay, because people want him to be this paragon of progressivism. You know, I'm not expecting that much of him. Maybe that's just me, but I'm just hoping that he is a progressive, that he stays a progressive, and that he wins, and that he beats Ron DeSantis, and hopefully he can get into office and pass progressive policies. That's what I'm wanting. I don't care about videos that he's making with people that don't have anything to do with policies. I don't care about a tweet unless you can show me a video where or a quote where he's saying that he doesn't support a progressive policy. But I'm gonna need more than some innocuous tweet. Okay. My standards are just, I don't know. I just have different standards than other people. This ties into another video Jimmy made, and I mentioned this earlier in the video, so now I'm getting around to it. He made in that video that he made about the Gillum and Booker video. In that same video, he starts taking shots at AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who, you know, they're now claiming she's not a real progressive. Okay, they're now saying she's a centrist because she recently endorsed Andrew Cuomo. Why? Because Cuomo beat the candidate she actually preferred, which was who was Cynthia Nixon. Cynthia Nixon was AOC's candidate. That she was the one that she wanted to win, but she didn't win. So AOC doesn't want to become a pariah within the Democratic Party and help Republicans by snubbing Andrew Cuomo and making an enemy out of him, and he's about to be the governor of the state. That's not politically smart. It doesn't mean that AOC endorses Andrew Cuomo's policy agenda. That's not what it means. By the way, Bernie Sanders did the same thing. When Bernie Sanders lost, he endorsed Hillary Clinton. People didn't like that, but Bernie understood that was the politically expedient, the politically smart thing to do, if he still wanted to be relevant. I would even go so far as to say, if he didn't come out and support Hillary Clinton as strongly as he did, they probably wouldn't have given him the access that they've given him now. This is how politics works. And it amazes me how people just seem to forget that or don't get that. Okay, so before I continue, that's all I wanted to say about Gillum for the most part. I'm probably gonna mention him somewhere else in this video. Actually, matter of fact, this is a good time to bring up something about him before I move on to Ayanna Pressley. Because Jimmy Dore, you know, he's been taking shots at Ayanna Pressley too. So before I get into that, though, I do want to say, like I said earlier, I don't think Andrew Gillum is the superhero progressive. I think he's a good man. I think he's a good progressive. I think he's even a strong progressive. But I don't think that he's not as far to the left as I am, and I'm okay with that. I don't think that means he would be a bad governor of Florida until proven otherwise. But for the sake of discussion, and so people won't think that you just like Andrew Gillum because he's black, because I'm sure that's what people are thinking. I'm sure that's what people are thinking. So no, like I went to Andrew Gillum's website. Okay, he has a cool website, and I went to the section that he has under issues and then criminal justice reform. Okay, and I'm going to talk about Ayanna Pressley in a second, but I want to bring her up now as well because if you go to Ayanna Pressley's website and you look at her criminal justice platform, it's much more fleshed out. Okay, it's much more fleshed out. She goes into much more detail. And what does give me a little bit of pause with Gillum, okay, is that when you go to his website and you look at what he says about criminal justice reform, or at least his platform, there are 4 brief paragraphs. It's not a lot. It's not a lot to go off of, and I wonder about that. Like I do. Because if you look at Ayanna Pressley, she's very clear. She has a very detailed policy agenda. So she wants to end the cash bail system. By the way, Andrew Gillum wants to do that too. They both want to end cash bail. Okay, but she's very clear about that. She says she wants to end predatory prison phone rates because in a lot of these prisons they're charging families all kinds of money just to talk to their people, their relatives in prison. So she wants to end that. She's very clear about ending the drug war. She wants to legalize marijuana. Also, Andrew Gillum also wants to legalize marijuana. Okay. She wants to expunge the records of nonviolent drug offenders. Okay. She has all of this stuff that she wants to do about prison reform. She literally says she wants to end state and federal funding of private prisons. Okay. She wants to completely gut the private prison industry for all intents and purposes. Okay, she wants to end the death penalty. She wants to go to really, because it would take me too long to go through all of this. Go to Ayanna Pressley's website and see how thorough her criminal justice platform is. Like I said this on Twitter, and I'll say it now in this video. Out of everyone I've looked at, she easily has the most thorough and the most progressive and the strongest, the most leftist policy agenda on criminal justice reform out of everybody. And look, I'm defending Andrew Gillum right now, but I'm also being critical because when you go to his website, that's not there. It's very vague, and like that kind of tells me that he doesn't want to necessarily be held down to anything in particular. And what really what I question is this right here. Let me see if I can find it. All right, so yes, it's the third paragraph. Okay, it says, Andrew also launched Operation Safe Neighborhoods, a community collaborative focused on building stronger relationships between citizens and law enforcement. And, which, okay, that's not a bad thing, but I'm about to bring up another article that makes me question some things, and better applying resources in the city's high crime areas. Listen to this. Through increased investments in law enforcement, diversion and reentry programs, and an expansion of human services in the highest crime areas of the city, Tallahassee is the safest it has been since 2013, including a 10% decrease in total crime. Okay, that's good. What really jumped out at me here was through increased investments in law enforcement. I have an issue with that. Okay, and like I said, I can do both. this is an example of doing both. It's an example of criticizing poor takes on Andrew Gillum from the left, from people like Jimmy Dore, while at the same time actually bringing up like valid things that actually could be problematic. Like, so if you think about, look at something like Chicago. Okay, in Chicago, Rahm Emanuel defunded the schools. He completely started shutting down schools left and right all over the city, most of them in black areas. He started shutting down mental health facilities. Lo and behold, they find $100 million to put into a state-of-the-art police academy in the blackest, poorest city of the damn city. So they found money when it came to giving money to police or, quote, investing in law enforcement. They found money for that. Okay, but they didn't have money for schools, and they didn't have money for mental health facilities. And you wonder why crime is so bad in the city. And you look and you kind of see where they're diverting money. And like, to me, I'm not a believer in we just need to give cops more money. We just need to fund cops and give cops more money and increase police training, and everything is going to be better. Because I've looked into this issue too much to know that is only part of the problem. The training is only part of the problem. It's much worse than just poor training. Okay? Law enforcement has a white supremacy problem. It has an accountability problem. Okay, it has a problem where people see black people and know that they can kill them and get away with it because they're black, whereas you can have a white guy go and shoot up a school, shoot up a movie theater, okay, shoot up a gaming convention, or that guy died actually, but shoot up a church, for instance, in South Carolina, and they get taken in. Okay? Dylan Roof was taken to fucking Burger King. And pardon my language, but he was taken to daggone Burger King. He wasn't, they didn't gun Dylan Roof down. Like, so I don't buy into the whole, the only reason this is happening is just police don't have enough African American history to train in or some shit. Like, no, that has very little to do with it, in my opinion. It is an accountability problem, and it is a problem of the judicial system not wanting to hold dirty cops accountable and corrupt cops accountable. It's because politicians are petrified of the police union. Mayor Bill de Blasio criticized police in New York, and when he went into, this was after he got into office, and when he gave a meeting or some sort of speech where police were present, they turned their backs on him. He hasn't been as critical of police since then. Okay, so stuff like this gives me pause. Again, I'm not jumping the gun. I'm not saying Andrew Gillum is Cory Booker 2.0 purely because of one sentence on his website. But this is better than a tweet. So let's move on to Ayanna Pressley, because Jimmy has made one video of her where he took issue with the fact that she said she didn't feel like a male reporter. So, like, back in 2016, Ayanna Pressley supported Hillary Clinton in the primary, like Andrew Gillum. And Jimmy thinks that because of this, they're not real progressives. That's implied because they didn't support Bernie Sanders. So, that's the standard now. Like, you're not a real progressive if you didn't support Bernie Sanders in 2016. Again, that's not policy. That has nothing to do with policy. Well, anyway, so yeah, let me not go off topic. So Ayanna Pressley was interviewed in 2016, and she said something to the effect that she didn't think the male reporter should mansplain to her what it means to be a real progressive. Okay. And Jimmy makes sure that that Andrew Gillum and Ayanna Pressley both supported Hillary. He mentions it multiple times in numerous videos. Okay, I honestly don't know what to say about that because it's personal. Like this is a personal thing. This is not policy related. This is clearly something where Jimmy Dore has a personal issue with Ayanna Pressley. He has a personal issue with AOC. He has a personal issue. He definitely has a personal issue with Andrew Gillum. I don't know what it is about Gillum that Jimmy's just been like this progressive gatekeeper with Andrew Gillum. I don't really know what this is all about, but I mean, the video is hard to watch because his criticism, as I said before, is not based in policy. He actually acknowledges in the same video that Ayanna Pressley admitted that she and the progressive that she knocked off agreed on many issues. Now, me personally, just looking over her criminal justice stances, I could be wrong, but I doubt the older white progressive that she knocked off was that strong on criminal justice issues. I doubt that. So I would say that she's at least probably to the left of him on certain issues, and at the very most, she's as progressive as he was on some, if not more progressive. But do you seriously think voters in 2018 actually care about whether or not Gillum and Pressley supported Hillary Clinton in the 2016 primary? Seriously. I mean, to the extent that they'd either vote for a Republican or stay home, making it easier for a Republican to win. I mean, really, do you see that being likely? Because I don't. I find making a video purely just to say something critical because you didn't like the fact that she said mansplaining is counterproductive. And yes, it makes me question your motives. It does. I mean, I don't, because you're not focusing on the races. You're focusing on the people, but you're not focusing on you're not focusing on the right wingers. You're focusing on the progressives, but not in a balanced way. You're doing it largely in a negative way. So I question I question his motives. I really do. I'm not saying anything, in one way or the other, but it just looks very suspect to me. I wonder because, while you're attacking progressives, Jimmy, while you're doing that, you have the alt-right sympathizers they're running against, like Ron DeSantis, who has the support of the Proud Boys. Yes, I saw it today on Tallahassee.com. This Saturday at a rally, the Proud Boys, an alt-right white supremacist group, showed up and gave him their support. Now, I don't know if Ron DeSantis knew they were coming. I don't even know if he knew they were there. But the Proud Boys were there supporting Ron DeSantis. When DeSantis was asked about this, he did not denounce the group. He did not reject the Proud Boys. What he did was he deflected and he accused Andrew Gillum supporters of being anti-Semitic. So he was called, which, DeSantis has been called out for his racism numerous times now. Okay, so their whole strategy is to, when they're criticized of being racist or for being racist, they simply say, well, look at Andrew Gillum. Andrew Gillum is racist too. That's their whole strategy. He brought up the fact that Gillum has had the support of the Dream Defenders. The black activist group. He had the support of the Dream Defenders, and the Dream Defenders called Israel an apartheid state. So DeSantis used that as proof that Andrew Gillum is anti-Semitic. And they've been calling Andrew Gillum anti-Semitic since his victory. So it's clear that for DeSantis in his campaign, like I said, their agenda is purely just to deflect actual cases of racism, like, being the administrator of a racist Facebook group, an actual case of racism, okay, by saying, well, Andrew Gillum is racist too. That's why Ron DeSantis is down 9 points in a poll that just came out today. That's why. That's why. Because clearly the people of Florida are not buying Ron DeSantis' BS. 9 points is a significant lead. It's not insurmountable, but if Andrew Gillum holds that, and really honestly, and like I said in the beginning of this video, you can't read too much into the polling, but there is a consistency with the polling in Florida. It has consistently been favorable for Andrew Gillum. There hasn't been a single poll that has showed DeSantis up. And the most recent poll has DeSantis down by 9 points. So again, this puts some of the things that progressives like Jimmy Dore, and who have massive followings, well over 100,000 followers. I don't know how many followers does he have. Let me look. Oh wow, nearly 500,000. So Jimmy has over 400,000 followers on YouTube. Okay, it is a big deal. Okay, if you have that type of reach, okay, and you're doing this much of a disservice to the people running with good leads against people as despicable as Ron DeSantis. And you're not mentioning DeSantis in any of your videos. You're not talking about how bad DeSantis is. You're purely just talking about Andrew Gillum. And you're not even doing it in a good way. But the fact that you have, a black progressive up 9 points in a crucial state in 2020, okay, a significant, like, if Democrats can win in Florida in the midterms, okay, that puts Florida in better play than Florida has ever been in play over the past 20 years for Democrats. Okay, because it puts the left in power, in a position of power. So you might not have to worry as much about voter suppression. Andrew Gillum wants to allow people with felonies, because the thing about Florida, a lot of people don't know this. Florida is a huge felony disenfranchisement state. I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but there is a huge percentage of black people in Florida who are legally prevented from voting, like enough to swing an election. So it's a big deal that you have someone in office who wants to end that system and who wants to, get those people back at the ballot box. You know how much that would help the left if you can give the voting rights back to millions of disenfranchised black voters in that state. You know how much that's going to help progressives going forward in that state when you're adding millions of voters to the eligible voting pool. Like come on, we have to see the forest from the trees. Okay, and right now, like I don't know, I'm kind of just disappointed in some content creators on the left, like people who have way too much influence are spreading some very destructive concepts and very destructive ideas. And again, not based in policy. It would be one thing if it was based in policy, but he's making videos critical of people for saying mansplaining. And critical of AOC because she did the politically smart thing to do, and that's endorse Andrew Cuomo. Not because she wanted him to win, but because he actually won. Claiming Andrew Gillum doesn't support Medicare for all when he says he supports Medicare for all. Like, come on, like, it's frustrating. It's really frustrating. So Jimmy's too busy questioning the progressivism of progressives, even after they get the support from Bernie Sanders. So this is where we're at. Because of selective reporting, in a month, Andrew Gillum has gone from being a Bernie-backed progressive to a centrist neoliberal based on a few tweets. Literally. Folks aren't even letting this man get into office before they start smearing him. Okay, thankfully, I don't think it's going to have really an impact on the race, because the criticisms being raised aren't things I think most voters care about. Okay, it's a reflection of the social media bubble that certain YouTube content creators with followers in the hundreds of thousands exist in. Okay, where people like Jimmy Dore thinks he's holding progressives' feet to the fire by insinuating black and brown progressives aren't really progressives not because of policy, but because of tweets that are blown out of proportion to make it look as if they're less progressive than they actually are. Which is why he's not actually bringing up the policy positions of Ayanna Pressley. He's not actually bringing up the policy positions of Andrew Gillum. He's not even mentioning Stacey Abrams. Has he made a single video about Stacey Abrams and what's going on in Georgia? Jimmy Dore is not a progressive gatekeeper, even though he wants to position himself as one. He's not. Jimmy Dore is not the kingmaker of who a progressive is and who a progressive isn't. I see what you're doing, Jimmy. I see what you're doing. It is counterproductive. And just like how you said at the end of the Ayanna Pressley video you made, you said you're keeping your eyes on her. Well, now we're keeping our eyes on you. Don't freak out. Don't freak out.